dignitaries to please come on the dais. I invite His Excellency Mr. Dilshod Khatub, Ambassador of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Please join us. I invite Shri Akhilesh Mishra, Additional Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs. Shri Pranab Khullar, DDG Telecom, Ministry of Communication. I request our Member Secretary, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, to please come on dais. I also invite author of the book, Ms. Sunita Dwivedi, please join on the dais. Mr. Kapish Mehra, Managing Director, Rupa Publication, is he around? So, after a long time, we are having this in-person program, a book launch discussion, almost quite number of months. Earlier, we used to have regular book discussion and launch program in form of some book discussion, and now that we have converted into virtual book discussion. But here, when author of the book, Ms. Sunita Dwivedi, she specially requested that I would like to have this program in person. So somehow we have to accept her request, and we have organized this. So I welcome you all. As you know, this book which we are going to launch and discuss today, Buddha in Gandhara, is written by Sunita Dwivedi. It's a kind of travelogue. And to launch and have a discussion on this book, we have very eminent panel, and it's my profound duty and indeed a great honor in thanking and welcoming you, the panel. We have with us His Excellency Mr. Dilshod Khatub, Ambassador of Republic of Uzbekistan to the Republic of India. We have with us Shri Akhilesh Mishra ji, who is Additional Secretary, currently Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. Earlier he was the Director General of Indian Council of Cultural Relations. He has also served as an ambassador to various countries. We also have Shri Pranab Khullar, DDG Telecom, Ministry of Communication, Government of India. Earlier, Mr. Khullar was the Joint Secretary in Ministry of Culture and having close interaction with IGNCA. The program is going to be chaired by our Member Secretary, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi ji. So I welcome him also. We have with us the publisher representative who will be joining very soon, and author of the book, Sunita ji. So now I request my colleagues to formally welcome and thanks. I request our Member Secretary to present a small memento from IGNCA to all our guests. First, His Excellency Mr. Dilshod Khatub. Thank you and welcome, Mr. Khatub. Now I request the Member Secretary to facilitate Mr. Akhilesh Mishra ji. Additional. Shri Pranab Khullar. Now author of the book, Ms. Sunita Dwivedi. So the friends, the book which is a travelogue, it is a great efforts of author towards recreating a journey on the Buddha's trial among the Lahore, Peshawar, Kabul, Bamiyan, Vek, Samangun routes, and author has recreated the journey and has presented her views on this very important subject. So let me introduce the author whose book we are going to launch today. Sunita Dwivedi is a Silk Road traveler and author, a keen photographer and an independent researcher. She has authored 3 travelogues, Buddhist Heritage Sites of India, which was published in 2006, Buddha in Central Asia, a travelogue, and In Quest of the Buddha, which was published in 2009. So we thank Sunita ji for choosing IGNC as venue to launch your books and congratulate you. So now I request all the eminent dignitaries to launch the book. So now, moving ahead the program, who can be the best person to introduce books to all of us? So now I invite author of the book, Ms. Sunita Dwivedi, to introduce the books to audience and everybody. Sunita.
Dear friends, today is a great day for me. I feel humbled by the response and encouragement I have received from all of you. As we go ahead with the event, I must first of all thank Mr. Kapish Mehra, MD Rupa Publishing, for publishing my book, my tetralogy on Buddhist heritage of Asia. The Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts for launching the book in collaboration with Rupa. I'm indebted and extremely thankful to Dr. Sachinanand Joshi, Member Secretary, Dr. R.C. Gaud, Dean, IGNCA, for their immense interest in the book and look forward to their continued support in organizing an exhibition on Buddhist heritage of the Asian Silk Road whenever it is possible. The Ambassador of Uzbekistan, His Excellency Mr. Dilshad Akhatov, Member of Parliament Mr. Sudhanshu Mittalji, Shri Shakti Sinha, Director General, International Buddhist Confederation, Shri Akhilesh Mishra, Additional Secretary, DPA, Ministry of External Affairs, Shri Pranav Khullar, DDG, Secretary, DDG, Telecom, Ministry of Communication, Bhante, Shri Dharma Videsan, and senior monks from the Lakshmi Nagar Vihara, Mahathera, Dhammadeep, Mahathera, Bhikshu, Dhammanand, Mahathera, Bhikshu, Sanghadeep, Mahathera, Bhikshu, Pragyadeep. Through them, I received the blessings of the Buddha and Kushinagar, where I belong. In Afghanistan, Dr. Fahim Rahimi, present director, Dr. Umra Khan Masoodi, former director, National Museum of Afghanistan, late Dr. General Musa Wardak and Mrs. Fauzia Wardak for providing me shelter and food and accompanying me to several heritage sites in Afghanistan. In Pakistan, Professor Muhammad Iqbal Chawla, Dean History, University of Punjab, Lahore, Dr. Humaira Naz, Dr. Abdul Samad, Director, Department of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Dr. Imran Masood, Chairman, Gandhara Art and Cultural Association, Mr. Zulfikar Rahim and Dr. Esther Park, also of the Gandhara Art and Cultural Association, for providing me shelter in their home. I pay my utmost respects to the memory of late Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan ji, who headed the Asia project of the Silk Road. She has always inquired about the progress of my work. Every detail she wanted to know, as I nervously stood before her. Just before Kapila ji passed away from our midst, she wrote an endorsement. I think it was her last for my book. I'm happy that my book will always carry the stamp that Kapila ji has put on it. And that was the last time I touched her feet and received her blessings, which I always carry in my heart. Regarding my writings and travels in China, Central Asia, and Gandhara, Professor Lokesh Chandra, Director, International Academy of Indian Culture, has been a hard taskmaster. I feel honored and privileged to say that Lokesh Chandra ji always went through my manuscript with a critical eye, pointing out the gaps in the narrative, the sites that were missed, the terminology of the Silk Road whose origins and meanings I did not know. I met him with fear and trepidation, imagining what questions he would put to me about the sites on the Silk Road. He would always come up with unexpected questions about some inscriptions at sites which I had totally overlooked. Despite my shortcomings, Professor Lokesh Chandra has endorsed my book and given me the courage and confidence to work harder and write better. He is not here due to old age, but he has written a glorious review of the book, which has been published by electronic media, First News of Delhi. Today is also the day when I feel the credit for my work does not go to me alone. There are stations that have helped me. Among these are the National Museum, Delhi, the Jamia Millia University, the Jawaharlal Nehru University, the India Central Asia Foundation, the Silk Road Asia Project, India International Center. Now I would like to say something about my travels, which have focused on the revival of the Buddhist corridor of South Asia. Travels undertaken by me along the Grand Trunk Road was aimed at experiencing firsthand the connectivity of Buddhist sites falling along this great route, running from Bangladesh through northern India and the foothills of the Himalayas into Taxila, Peshawar, Kabul, Bamiyan, and Balkh. The travels aim to present a continuous travel map of Buddhist tourism in South Asia, particularly along the present international highways starting from Bangladesh through India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, into Central Asia across the Oxus. The long route covering over 2,000 kilometers of difficult terrain, including plains, river valleys, and mountains, was a Buddhist corridor. This was the great route that could take a pilgrim or a trader coming from Central Asia right up to the Bay of Bengal and further into the regions of Southeast Asia, or could follow its branches into Tibet, Burma, and the Yunnan. The monasteries and antiquities dug out during archaeological excavations at the ancient Buddhist cities along this high road and preserved in various museums of Asia and Europe are still a potent attraction for world tourism. Several UNESCO heritage sites lie in the countries of the Uttarapath, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. Sites like Bamiyan, Samangan, Peshawar, Mardan, Taxila, Sarnath, Bodh Gaya, Kushinagar, Lumbini, Rajshahi, Komila, Chittagong hill tracks are icons of Asian tourism. Revival of this east-west corridor running from Bangladesh through India and ending at Kabul will be a boon for tourists and pilgrims who can avail of a continuous travel map of Buddhist tourism along the Asian high road. I would also like to draw the attention of this August gathering to the impending destruction of a most beautiful Buddhist site, Mes Ainak, by the Chinese company. The splendid Buddhist city near Kabul that is being dug out and excavated is facing extinction at the hands of the Chinese mining company, the MCC. It is believed that 2 million years ago, the city of Mes Ainak was part of the flourishing kingdom of Gandhara, ruled by a Buddhist king. Large-scale construction of monasteries and shrines at Mes Ainak began, according to Afghan scholars, as early as the 1st century, when the site was ruled by the Kushans. Nicholas Engels, vice president of DAFA, whom this author met at the National Museum at Kabul, said that the site of Mes Ainak stretches over more than 1,000 hectares along the Baba Wali mountains where the copper mines are located. Only a small area has as yet been uncovered. Engels said it may take several years to excavate the city. The red zone demarcated by the Afghan authorities for early completion of excavation itself may take long. The Chinese mining company MCC has a contract to extract the world's largest copper reserves in the large open-cast mines, which pose a great danger and imminent destruction of the historical and religious treasures buried in these hills. What measures can be taken to prevent the destruction of Mes Ainak is for India and World Heritage bodies to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita ji, for letting us know about your wonderful work. Buddha and Buddhism is a great connect between India and entire Asia, and particularly in South Asia, Southeast Asia and East Asia. We still have a lot of remembrance programs, research activities and joint exhibition. IGNC is very regularly working on these areas. I have personal opportunity to visit many of these places, including Dunhuang and other countries in South Korea and other South Asian country. So I'm sure this book is going to be of interest to many of the research scholars to see the new innovative information provided in that. Sri Sakti Sinha, one of the panelists who was supposed to join online, not able to, due to some technical issues, we are not able to connect online. So we'll move ahead with the rest of the program. I welcome Mr. Kapish Mehra, who has already arrived in the audience. And moving ahead with the program, I would like to request and invite His Excellency Mr. Dilshod Akhatov, Ambassador of the Republic of Uzbekistan, to address the gathering.
Good afternoon, namaskar, excellencies, dear friends, distinguished guests, scholars and colleagues. I'm very honored, yes, soft mask maybe. I'm very honored to attend the launch of the book Buddha in Gandhara, written by Ms. Sunita Dwivedi. I would like to thank the organizers of the event for inviting me and giving opportunity to participate in this event. And of course, I sincerely congratulate Ms. Sunita Dwivedi, who is very close friend of our embassy and our country also. I congratulate you for completing another book another book on Buddhist heritage. And I was informed, of course, after joining the embassy recently last year, about your very interesting book, Travelogy, Buddha in Central Asia. I wish you all the best and huge successes in your future activities. Dear friends, India is very well known in Uzbekistan for a long time as a country with rich history and unique culture, the country with which Uzbek people are connected with centuries old cultural trade and economic relations, and above all with bonds of sincerely friendship. The close friendly relations between Uzbekistan and India have its roots deep in history. The eminent Uzbek scholar Al-Biruni visited India in the 11th century and wrote his famous book Kitab Tahqiq al-Hind, one of the first famous scientific works about Indian society and culture. Another big historical name connected with the history, literature, music, arts and architecture of the Uzbek and Indian people, their mutual enrichment and friendly ties, is Babur, the founder of Baburid's dynasty, mostly called Mughal Empire. But I would like to say our common history goes to long time back, and at least to Kushana Empire period, where some parts of modern Uzbekistan, India, and more other countries were in same country, and the main religion of that empire was Buddhism, as you know. In the Surkhandarya region, for example, of modern Uzbekistan, is located in south part of Uzbekistan. Buddhist monuments and ancient settlements have been preserved. One of these monuments is the temple complex Fayaz Tepe, dating from the 1st century BC. Termez city is, as I mentioned, is in the south of Uzbekistan, is more than 2,500-year-old city, is known for being one of the main cities in Kushan Kingdom. It was the center of the spread of Buddhism from India to Central Asia. I would like maybe to East Asia also. I would like to note that very unique Buddhist monuments of that time have been preserved in museums of this city of Termez. We are working for a long time with our Japanese friends and archaeologists in exploration and preserving that exciting Buddhist heritage. At the same time, we are open to our Indian friends for conducting joint scientific projects in this area also. I also would like to note that promotion of those existing Buddhist heritage may become a new place of attraction for foreign tourists, especially for Buddhist people. Dear friends, strengthening cultural ties, people-to-people contacts between Uzbekistan and India was one of the agenda points of the high-level virtual summit, which has taken place in December 2020, last year, between Honorable President of Uzbekistan and Honorable Prime Minister of India. Most of you very well know the high-level attention paid by the government of Uzbekistan to restore and popularize the cultural and historical heritage. Taking this opportunity today, I want to draw your attention to the one of the recent very important initiative of our president, Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev, which was put forward by him during his address at 75th session of United Nations General Assembly on 23rd September last year. Taking into consideration of global importance of the ancient cultural and spiritual heritage of Central Asian region, President of Uzbekistan proposed to organize high-level international forum in Khiva, in ancient Khiva. It's Central Asia at the crossroads of world civilization. It will be organized in this year in cooperation with UNESCO. The initiative is very important because it will serve to further strengthen among the peoples of the countries of the, not of our region, but of neighbor regions, of course, a sense of belonging to a single region called Central Asia, and which is an important factor in the development of good neighborly interstate relations. It will also draw the attention and assistance of the world community to the measures taken in our region to restore and popularize the cultural and historical heritage. And conference should increase the interest of the international scientific community in studying of the scientific and intellectual heritage of the peoples of our region of Central Asia. And I'm sure that prominent scholars from India will be the participants of this international conference in Khiva, in Uzbekistan, in this year. Of course, you will be also invited, Ms. Dwivedi, to this conference, of course. I once again thank all organizers and Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. I wish successes again to Ms. Sunita Dwivedi in all her activities. Thank you for your attention, and if you allow me, I would like to present some one book. It's about also our common history. This is a collection of art in the State Museum of Oriental Art. Please. Maybe.
Thank you, His Excellency, for your wonderful views, and we value your efforts and your country's keenness in enhancing and strengthening our cultural relation. At IGNCA, we have been having programs and activities focusing Central Asia. 1 year back, I just want to inform you that we compiled a descriptive catalog on Maulana Rumi, and in the same hall, in the presence of 7 ambassadors, this publication was launched. So we'll be happy to, because we'll miss you on this occasion, but we'll be happy to give you that copy of that Maulana's. That catalog is about what kind of publication we have on Maulana Rumis in different libraries of India. So it's a source for researcher to know how to access the Maulana Rumi's work in India. Thank you. So thank you very much for your wonderful views. And now moving ahead, I would like to invite Sri Akhilesh Mishra, who is a scholar by heart, being administrator, but he always try to focus his activities towards a scholarship as a DG of Indian Council of Cultural Relations. IGNC is having a number of collaborative programs, and we have an opportunity to have him in various programs. So again, request you to please provide your views on the book.
Namaskar. First of all, my very warm greetings to my very dear friend, Ambassador of Uzbekistan, my esteemed friend, Dr. Joshi ji, Sunita ji, Khulle ji, and my good friend Gaur ji. First of all, I must thank IJNCA for hosting this event and also most generously inviting me, because it's a great privilege for me to first of all come to IJNCA and have the opportunity of meeting someone like Dr. Joshi, whom I have admired tremendously as DG of ICCR for his enormous enthusiasm and tireless energy for preserving and promoting, disseminating India's culture. So you have been a source of inspiration for me. Also, friends, there is also something very personal for me, because as Sunita ji belongs to Kushinagar, I belong to Sarnath. And also, I must have been about 5 years or 6 years old when I read and learnt about the story of Siddhartha Gautam and his conflict, like debate with Devdutt, who has hit with an arrow a bird. And then he's laying claim on the bird because his arrow has hit the bird, whereas Siddhartha Gautam goes and nurtures the bird. So that had very, very profound impact on me. And since then, I have always felt a kind of deep personal connect with Siddhartha Gautam. I was fortunate that I have spent a lot of time under the shadow of the Dhammika, therefore just thinking about Buddha's name and his message stirs my soul. And also, it has really struck me as an individual that what motivated Siddhartha Gautam. He was born in a very life of luxury, and his parents took special care to make sure that he gets most comfortable treatment life, and he left all the luxuries for most of us strive and sweat, but he left because he was motivated by some issues, and something bothered him. It did not pertain to his personal comfort or happiness of his own individual, but they were very serious questions about the nature of the existence, his life, the entire creation in the universe, and the issues that bothered him, they are permanent. And the solutions that he found, they are also timeless in nature. His message is of timeless significance. They are universal, cutting across geographical boundaries, and his message is not only for Buddhists who are followers of Buddha Dhamma, but for the entire humanity. Secondly, I'm a student of science, and I'm very fascinated that unlike some other faiths who are based on faith, that the individual must have faith in certain presumptions. Buddhism does not encourage blind faith, but encourages reasoning, debate, and proper understanding of the nature of the existence and the life and other things. And it was the quest for knowledge, quest for proper understanding of the reality that surrounds us, that actually led Buddha to seek Buddhism, all the spiritual upliftment that he went through. And Buddham yad yaccha bodhavyam, yaccha nanyeta bodhyet. Buddha learnt and grasped whatever is there to be understood. Yaccha nanyena bodhyet, which nobody else could have understood or understood. Also, friends, Buddhism is very, very modern in outlook and very scientific in approach. It is like mathematical in its precision about how it argues and how the arguments are advanced. And understanding of the true nature of the reality, the concepts of anitya and anatma, and interdependent in the cause-effect dynamic, the pratita samutpada for the Mahayanis. And also, the focus is not on the other to reform, but the way to find solutions is not with the other, but with the individual, and an individual effort. And also the primacy is of the effort of the mind. Mano pubbangama dhamma, mano sekta manomaya, mano ducharitam hitva, manasa sucharitam chare. The seed of the religion, the concept, the right conduct is in the mind. And in the mind you have to shed all the evil conduct and evil thoughts, and then in the mind your good conduct starts. And also Buddha gave some very practical solutions. One incident I wish to share is that there was a disciple who said that there is a lot of thorns on the earth. What do I do? because as soon as I walk, it hurts my feet. So the one way is that bhumim chadayitum sarvam kutascharma bhavishyati. There is one way that if the entire, wherever I have to go, there is a red carpet or there is a leather shield which insulates my feet from all the thorns. Where will I get that kind of spread of leather? Bhumim chadayitum sarvam kutascharma bhavishyati. Upana charma matrena channa bhavati medini. Just my feet, the sole is covered with a shoe, has the same impact as the entire earth is covered with leather. So this is such a simple but such a powerful practical message for the individual. That if I want thorns to not bother me, I have to protect myself. I have to take action. Similarly, the importance of the thought. Suddhi asuddhi pachantam nayo anyam vishodhaye. The purity of thought is something for me to acquire. Nobody else can give that purity to me. No one else can make me pure or impure. Similarly, friends, the individual responsibility. There is no escape from responsibility of individual action. Good or bad actions that one has undertaken, there is no way you can escape. Na antarikshe, na samudra majhe, na pavvatan vivaram vivassa, na vijyati so jagati padeso, yathathito muncheya papakamma. There is neither in the skies, न तो अंतरिक्ष में, न समुद्र में, न पर्वतों में, किसी भी विवर में जाके छुप जाओ. विश्व में कहीं भी ऐसी जगह नहीं है जहां अपने पाप के फल से बच सको. And also Buddha was very categorical that just prayers and chanting and darshan or rituals without the right conduct is futile. Duruhasya hi yogasya samyag acharanam vida na sambhavati muktirve kevalam mama darshanat. Just by having my darshan and also whatever difficult yogas and asanas you might do, without the proper conduct, it's all futile. You will not get liberation. And the whole purpose of this message, the Dharma Chakra Pravartan, is to rid the entire humanity of suffering forever. Munina jana saukhyaya dharma chakra pravartitam. The whole motive behind all the effort and so many years of exercise and preaching is to get rid of the suffering itself. And this is a very, very powerful concept. This is a concept of eternal relevance. And Buddhism has such a powerful role in spreading this message of global peace and harmony. And as a diplomat, I know and I feel so grateful to our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji that he is such a great visionary and foresighted leader that he has brought centrality to Buddhism as far as India's cultural diplomacy is concerned, and how Buddhism can play a role in building good relations, spreading peace and harmony, and as a very important instrument of foreign policy. And one of the very first initiatives he took was to launch Samvad, a global Hindu-Buddhist initiative on conflict avoidance and environmental consciousness. Words are his, Prime Minister Modi's. Conflict avoidance and environmental consciousness. And the Samvad initiative has continued, and the 6th was held recently, and Honorable Prime Minister Modi addressed it. And not only that, also the International Buddhist Confederation has been, under his Prime Minister Modi's blessings, it has been hosting annual Buddha Jayanti celebrations. And also, if you look at Prime Minister Modi's activities abroad, then you will notice that he has very, very wisely used Buddhism as part of India's diplomatic outreach. One of the very first visits that he undertook as Prime Minister in 2014 was to Bhutan. And first visit outside South Asia was to Japan, again deep Buddhist connect. And also he went to Sri Lanka for attending the Vesak celebration. And also the gifts that he has been giving to different leaders again have deep message of Buddhism. And in Mongolia, the Buddha statue at the Gandhara Monastery and very many Buddhist monuments are being restored as part of Ministry of External Affairs Development Assistance. Many renovation programs. And also recently we organized a series of online programs for Vipassana because the healthcare dimension of COVID has been addressed. And Government of India has facilitated supply of medicines to about 150 countries. And also we are currently engaged in vaccine mastery and supplying affordable medicine to many vaccines to many countries. But the psychological impact and the human dimension of COVID has not been addressed. So as part of that effort, the Ministry of External Affairs launched online ITEP programs focusing on use of Buddhism and meditation, Buddhist meditation for coping with the stress and trauma that COVID has brought on us. Friends, coming to the book of Dr. Sunita Dwivedi ji, I somewhat disagree with the categorization. Dr. Gaur mentioned it as a travelogue. I think this book particularly, unlike the previous books of Sunita ji, this book is a category, a unique category in itself. It's not just a travelogue. It's not just cataloging of observations. It's so deep on analysis. And also it brings the seriousness and rigor of a researcher. And research in a multi-dimensional manner, not just one dimension, but the kind of wide focus on history and culture in its kind of entirety, so to say. And also, I would like to flag, as I'm a layman, I'm not a Buddhist scholar, but having read this book, I would like to flag 4 points, which I found they were very new to me, and they were very novel to me. I'm not commenting on anything, but I'm just flagging those. First is about Buddha's ancestry, and tracing Buddha's ancestry to Gandhara. So the book quotes Edward Pocock and Nepal's Basant Bedari, and it points that Buddha's the Shakya Buddha not only studied Sanskrit but also Kharosti, language of the northeast Gandhar, and also the Shuddhodhan, Siddharth Gautam's father, Okamukho, he shifted the empire from Gandhar area to Kapilvastu, and that connection has been highlighted. And also quoting another author, Samuel Beale, it says that Buddha he was linked with Sakya king, and he visited actually Swat Valley and told the mother of Uttarasena, who was a descendant of the Shakya king, the Ikshvaku king, saying that this son of yours belongs to my family. This I have a serious question about it. Buddha left his family. Buddha, as Siddharth Gautam, he left his family. And once he became Buddha, then all the attachments, worldly attachments, were disrupted. So I do not believe that here there are scholars, they can guide us, but I do not think that after attaining Buddhitva, Buddha would have said that he is my son. And also the book says that he visited just before his death. So this is inconceivable if you try to reconcile the message of Buddha. Buddha is detached. Buddha's family is the entire humanity, not just mankind, but all living beings. So therefore, I question this statement that he goes and tells the mother, saying that this son of yours belongs to my family. This I don't think. Secondly, about Buddha's field of activity, about his visit to Gandhara. The common conventional knowledge that we had was that Buddha's connection with, the book points out that there are historical records which point not only to Buddha's connection with Gandhara, but also to possibility of his visit to Gandhara. And also the thesis is that there is evidence that Buddha had accurate knowledge of relatively egalitarian Greek society. And then it goes to say that in Yona and Kamboja, there are other outlying countries. There are only two castes, masters and slaves. So if there is a society which has two classes, masters and slaves, then you can't describe it as a relatively egalitarian society. Similarly, there is a quotation from Charles Eliot saying that Buddha visited northeast, west of India and Kashmir. I think, again, I'm reminded of some conversation I had with former very legendary Director General of ASI, Professor Dr. M.N. Deshpande. He was telling me once, many years ago, that think of Buddha, he existed 2005 years ago. And that time we did not have this kind of live recording that we have now. Even if you talk about one of the most photographed and recorded the personality of our modern India, Jawaharlal Nehru, we don't know which places actually he went. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who is the only president to serve twice, we don't know which places within India he traveled. So how can you say with certainty that, yeah, this is the point where Buddha touched? So there is a lot of speculation, a lot of theorizing involved. Again, given your research, you are very academic research, it's not a travelogue. So that's why I would like to flag that you can't say that there is evidence that he went and do this and he had accurate knowledge. He did not tell me, he did not tell the author. So there are very, very many indirect inferences which have been drawn, and then a subjective conclusion. Similarly, possibility or that Buddha preached in Gandhara before it was incorporated in Achaemenid Empire, and Buddha visited his clansmen in Swat just before his death at Kushinagar. Again, like this sense of kinship after attaining Buddhatva is a different notion of kinship. It's not limited to Gandhara. Yeah. Secondly, there is a Pakistani book which has been quoted, which says around the 5th century BC, Buddha himself was traveling along and preaching in the ancient cities on this corridor. Again, this needs more verification. A third element is the issue of relics or stupas in Buddha's lifetime. It talks about a Balkh merchant, Trapusa and Bhalika were traveling on the Bengal to Balkh's trade route and met Buddha in Sarnath, and that became his first lay disciplines. And Buddha at the time of departure gave them his hair and nail cuttings. And on their return home, they built stupas on these relics. And also it is that it is on record that the first stupas were built in the region of Balkh during the lifetime of Buddha himself. Again, I think this is something the scholars who are here, they can educate us. I found it very, very novel. That Buddha himself did not tell others to worship him. Even Hinayani's treat him, the early followers, initial followers of Lord Buddha, treated him as a human being, not a god or David. And also, I do not think that Buddha, knowing his emphasis on conduct, he would have given his hair and nail. And the entire fight began, like how to make use of and make his body parts permanent, became after he died. I'm not sure whether he would have approved of it if he had seen it. हाँ, तो ये रिसर्च का विषय है कि बुद्धा ने खुद दिया होगा अपने बॉडी पार्ट्स को कि ये नहीं दिया होगा, मतलब नेल या हेयर. तो ये रिसर्च का विषय है. ऐसे ही कि बुद्धा के लाइफ टाइम में ही स्तूपा बनने शुरू हो गए थे कि नहीं शुरू हो गए थे, ये भी आई थिंक और ज़्यादा रिसर्च की ज़रूरत है. चौथा विषय है हिंदू बुद्धिस्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. हाँ, तो इट टॉक्स अबाउट स्टैच्यू ऑफ दुर्गा महिषासुर मर्दिनी इमेज इन अ बुद्धिस्ट मोनास्ट्री. एंड देन इट्स वेरी again so striking that it's possible that Hindu Shahis installed Durga's image in Buddhist monastery. It is a good example of absorption of Hindi deities in Buddhist pantheon, and also points to the fact that Buddhist shrines were converted into Hindu shrines. Also, it quotes one art historian that though in subordinate position, these Hindu deities made their original importance felt now and then in the Buddhist framework. And also two Pakistani authors, Ashraf Khan and A.G. Lone, that they say around 540 AD, Hun King Mihir Kul attacked Gandhar and the valleys of Kabul and Swat rivers, one of the most flourishing centers of Buddhism, were completely destroyed. And there is a thesis which is advanced that it's a kind of conflict between Hindus and Buddhists, and resulting in destruction of Buddhist monument. And Huns especially targeted Buddhist centers with the full support of rancorous Brahmins. They demolished monasteries and plundered their wealth with the full assistance of local Hindus who were deprived of royal support since the 3rd century before Christ, after Ashoka descended to the throne. Again, this needs more research, because in India, we inherently had a pluralistic society. In terms of faith, in terms of belief, we always, even before Christianity was born, even before Buddhism as a established Dhamma was established, we had immense plurality and difference of perception, difference of approach within the Sanatan Dharma. And the approach has been to conquer others by argumentation, by Shastrarth. In India, in Sanskrit, the words have 3 powers, the Lakshana, Abhidha and Vyanjana. Someone who does not understand what Vyanjana means, he or she will make disaster of the translation. So in Hindi, like we are all very fond of Dharmender, so he very often says, "Kutte main tumhara khoon pee jaunga." So if some 20 years ago, hence some half-baked Hindi scholar comes and translates, so he will say, I have a documentary proof that he came from a region where Indians drank the blood of a dog. The Hindu-Buddhist conflict has been viciously propagated in a different conflictual manner. And in Buddhism, like in Tibet, even the Dalai Lama's followers, so they have very vigorous Shastrarth. So it will appear as if they are fighting, but they are not fighting. They are sending one message, and then that message is being countered. It's a kind of very vigorous intellectual dialogue. So that aspect again needs a in-depth academic study, and not blindly copy what Pakistani scholars are saying. And also I find it a bit awkward that Buddhist monasteries were not, because Buddhism has renunciation and not asteya. You cannot accumulate wealth. So unlike Indian temples, Buddhist monasteries were very frugal and they did not have huge amount of wealth. The Pakistani authors have been naturally driven by their extrapolating their experience that some invader comes and he goes and loots the temple. Hindus would not do it. And if they had that kind of vicious animosity, then I live in Sarnath, and that is surrounded by all Hindus. In Varanasi, which is the greatest hub of Hindu religion. I do not think that these statements should be taken on face value. We should do a more rigorous research. Once again, I must thank Sunita ji for inspiring me to do more research, and I'm going to study more.
So please have a big round of applause for such a wonderful, yeah. So I take my word back. I say he's a scholar by heart, but he has proved he's a real scholar. and the way he presented each and every aspect and thoroughly gone through the book, each and every point, and connected and reconnected. So thank you, sir, for your wonderful views, and we are honored to have you in this program. And I'm sure Smrita ji has taken many points from your talk, and would definitely would like to work on that and may like to discuss with you individually. So now moving ahead, we have another next speaker, Sri Pranav Khullar, who is currently DDG in Ministry of Communication. As I mentioned prior to that, he was working in Ministry of Culture and having great interest, very deep interest in culture and philosophy and religion. So now I invite you to give his views on the book.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Akatov, respected Akhilesh Mishra ji, respected Satchidanand Joshi ji, my dear friend, respected God Sahab, and above all, of course, respected Sunita ji. It is indeed a great privilege and my pleasure to be here back at the IGNCA. Though I am right now in the Department of Telecom, I've had a very close connect because I've been with the Ministry of Culture for 5 years, till last year, in fact. So in a way, I can claim actually to be one of the hosts as well, because I've had a very deep connect with IGNCA, and I'm amongst friends and family. So it feels wonderful. I've also had the privilege of handling the Navnalanda Mahavihar at Nalanda for almost a year. I was on additional charge as the Vice Chancellor of that, and what a wonderful, great experience it really was. Sunita ji, I think you've, it's a different genre completely. Akhilesh ji, of course, says that it's more than a travelogue, and I think we all accept that because there's a lot of research and a lot of scholarship. But in sheer terms of, I think, that kind of traveling which the author has done, I think it's simply wonderful and mesmerizing to go through the book. In a way, it reminds me, of a book which I couldn't actually complete, but I did. It's unfortunate, but I get reminded of a book by a person called Mishi Saran, on the footsteps, tracing the footsteps of a Chinese monk. This was published around 10 years back, around 2005-06, and she traces the entire journey of Hyun Sang, through Central Asia and through China, the Buddhist sites, and all the vanished kingdoms in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the rest of it. In much the similar way, I think Sunita ji has again traced this journey. When we talk in literary terms, because way back in college I come from a literature background, so when we talk in literary terms as a genre, when you write travelogues, it's all parallel to the actual recording of what you're doing is also your inner journey. So I think in a way, when you're talking of society, you're talking of the self also. There's a beautiful saying by J. Krishnamurti, the great philosopher, and in which he says that the mind which goes into itself enters on a pilgrimage from which there is no return. So I think that kind of journey which the author has taken not only in this book, but I think in all her prior books, I think is mesmerizing. Talking a little about Gandhara, I had occasion. I mean, I haven't dissected it as much as Dr. Akhilesh Mishra ji has, but yeah, I went through the book, and of course we all know that around more than 2,000 years ago, Gandhara was a major cultural crossroads between Greek, Iranian, and the Indian traditions. And the region was under the rule of numerous kings and dynasties, which included, of course, Alexander the Great, Ashoka. Ashoka, in fact, was the viceroy of Takshashila, much before he became the king, and of course, Kanishka. So it was during this latter period between the reigns of Ashoka and Kanishka that Gandhara became this major seat of Buddhist art. And somebody else has also pointed this out about Sunita ji, but I think she's right in highlighting, if I could say that, she's right in highlighting that Gandhara became actually the place where the Buddha attained the status of a deity. I think that's ironical, because Buddhism or the Buddhist thought, when you talk of Shunyavad, so there is no God figure in Buddhism at all. But ironically, just I think a few centuries or just maybe close to after his passing away also, I think Gandhar and Mathura became the two hot spots where art flourished. And art and sculpture flourished, as a result of which you had these great beautiful figures of the Buddha and the Bodhisattva. And that's why I say it's a little ironical, and she highlights this, of course, that it is in Gandhara that actually he acquired this dimension of a deity, as we do in our Hindu pantheon. So we deify our sages. So I think Buddha got deified ironically in Gandhara itself. Of course, we all know that Gandhara served as the bridge, and it has that has fostered the transmission of Buddhism along the Silk Road. One other thing which I just thought, which I could highlight, which is mentioned in detail, of course, by Sunita ji again, is the composition and the study of sacred texts, as she visits the monasteries. Because she's, of course, highlighted Bamiyan, which has been in the news over the last 10 years for various reasons, but she also highlights the monasteries which she has visited across the pre-partition Punjab of Pakistan now, and Afghanistan, the not so well-known monasteries. And I think there, when you take a look at the sacred texts, I think she points out this medium which I was fascinated by, and I'll just take a reference of it later. The medium of bark from birch trees. There's a national mission on manuscripts, which is in a mission mode under the IGNCA itself, and I think they were mandated. Of course, they've been mandated to digitize ancient manuscripts, whether in Sanskrit or Pali or Prakrit or other languages, and I thought this could make some fascinating insights into that kind of because we have the Gandhara Scrolls, which are today I believe in the Library of Congress. So the Library of Congress, which I was just coming to, that scroll retains almost, they say almost 80% of the original text. And the completeness of the scroll makes it rather noteworthy, because many other Gandharan manuscripts known to scholars have been more fragmentary. So, the library, of course, attained this and they've digitized it. We have a program, for which the Ministry of Culture also kind of puts in its nominations. We have the UNESCO program of the Memory of the Word Register. So we have nominations on various manuscripts, and we have nominated, amongst others, texts, the original texts, wherever they've been found, of the Bhagavad Gita, there was a text from the Rampur Raza Library in Patna, and there have been other texts. So, the Library of Congress, acquired the scroll which was written about 2,000 years ago, and it might interest Sunita ji. She might already, of course, know of it. So, the birch bark scroll, or the Gandhara scroll, as it is known, is one of the oldest Buddhist manuscripts, and the radiocarbon dating has placed its creation roughly between the 1st century BC, and consequently, it provides, this. It's another specimen of the rediscovered Buddhist literature of the Gandhari language. So it's not just Kharoshti, Sunita ji mentions it, of course. It's again, Gandhari language. I just wanted to read out a little, excerpt from the book itself. Akhilesh ji mentioned it so beautifully, but I think he went into a very detailed analysis of it, of course, but I was fascinated. I mean, as a lay reader, I was fascinated by it, that about the images of the Durga at Ghazni. It's one of those little ironies of history that, the man who desecrated the Somnath temple, comes from the place from where actually, such beautiful, Hindu artifacts have been found in Ghazni itself. That fascinated me as a layperson, I think. And it's one of those little ironies of history. And I just wanted to read out here. Just give me a second, please. Yeah. Akhilesh ji mentioned it. He says that, Sunita ji says, we may be tempted to deduce that the earliest images of the Buddha actually came from Gandhara. However, a great deal of controversy exists regarding the date and place of the appearance of the first image of the Buddha, as Gandhara and Mathura both have laid claims to the first Buddha images, a more Hellenized form in northwest Gandhara and a more Indianized style around Mathura. As I said, these are places where great centers of learning have come, whether it is Nalanda, whether it is Gandhar, Takshashila. I think knowledge was at its premium. I think we need to go back to the notion of knowledge as value, both for the self and for society. I think the travelogue, I think in a beautiful way, I think brings, or at least redirected me as a reader, to go back to history, to acquire this notion of knowledge which we had in the ancient world. I think that for me is the big takeaway from all these travelogues, because traveling and travelogues take you back into your own self, actually. We were mentioning, Akhilesh ji mentioned Buddhist thought. It takes you actually, the more you travel outside, I think the more the inner journey gets nourished. So I think I would urge you, I think, to read this book. It's a wonderful, I think, contribution. She's traveled so much, but it's a wonderful contribution, I think, to this entire process of rediscovering Buddhism and Buddhist art in Gandhara. Now, whether Gandhara is actually the place where Buddha traveled or not, is a matter of further research and scholarship. But I think my many congratulations, Sunita ji, and I think you referred and mentioned. I also, of course, can lay a little claim with Joshi ji's indulgence. I'm a good old Panju also, and my grandparents have come. Punjabis, for the benefit of the ambassador. So my grandparents and all have come from pre-partition Punjab in the good old narrates such wonderful stories. He had a great connect, we'll discuss it someday else, with Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan. So I was very touched when Sunita ji mentioned, because Kapila Vatsyayan, I think, was amongst our greatest, I think, modern day scholars and researchers, and I think, Joshi ji will agree, the founder of IGNCA itself. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and my congratulations again, Sunita ji, on this wonderful contribution.
Many thanks, Pranabji, for your very brief and but very detailed and wonderful account of the book. I'm sure now Sunita ji will having something to say in response to various discussion. So before inviting chair to do the concluding remarks, let me just give some time to Sunita ji to. Yeah, please.
Thanks, Dr. Gaur, for allowing me to answer a few questions raised by Dr. Akhilesh ji. He has flagged 4 points. And first of all, I would like to say that Gandhara, which we have limited to northwestern Pakistan and eastern and northeastern Afghanistan, these limits were not always there. The limits of this region kept changing with different rules at different periods. Sometimes they were more to the east, sometimes more, it covered more areas to the west. So first thing is that the limits were not this, that we see today. Second is that Buddha's visit to Gandhara. So whatever I have mentioned has been taken from not only Pakistani sources, but they have been taken from several other sources. I will not say definitely that Buddha went there, but I am only drawing inference from what these several authors are saying. Like we have the Greek author who has written India and Greece. How he has explained how in Greece there are so many regions where he has given not evidence but from his own inference that Indians were living there. So many cities that were named after the cities in India. It is a very interesting book, India and Greece. Secondly, the references have been taken by Indian author D.C. Ahir. He has clearly marked out the areas in Punjab that included, maybe in those days it included Gandhara areas, Trans-Gandhara, Gandhara areas, where he has said that the kings during the 6th century BC, that is during the time of Buddha, they were receiving the precepts from the rulers of Bihar, rulers of eastern India. They were receiving certain tamra thalis on which the precepts of the Buddha were written. So that happened in 6th century BC, and he has drawn inferences, the references from the texts. That texts, maybe they are not, according to you, maybe those texts should not be believed, but I have only given the references from which I have drawn, and they are not only Pakistani references, they are references from Indian authors. And one thing about Trapussa and Bhalika, this is a very common story about the trade which was taking place in this Buddhist corridor from Balkh. From Balkh to the Bay of Bengal, this road was open during Buddha's time in the 6th century BC. And this reference is not at one place, but at several places this is given, that those traders, Bhalika and Trapassu, they were traveling from Balkh and they met the Buddha. They met him in Sarnath and also at Bodh Gaya, and they offered honey and some cakes to him, and he gave them his hair and these relics. It may not be true, but these things are given in the texts, and I have drawn it from those texts. Then this very important point about the struggle between the Hindus and the Buddhists. So this struggle, if we go to Kerala, if we go to Tamil Nadu, this struggle is still there, because I have visited those monasteries. I have gone inside those temples, the Hindu temples which are there. I have seen with my own eyes that the broken Buddha statues are being taken out from water tanks. They are being dug out from fields. And there is a reference from the Archaeological Survey of India. If you go to the Madras Museum, that is the government museum in Chennai, one object that is a life-size Buddha idol is in their inner hall. In their inner hall, there is a life-size Buddha idol about 12 feet high. And they have written it, and that is an evidence, because ASI is not going to say something from hearsay or some story. It is written that this idol was found from the temple in Kanchipuram, goddess temple in Kanchipuram. It was hidden in the Garbhagriha because that temple had been converted to a Hindu temple. It was a Buddhist temple, and because it was a very big idol and it was so heavy that they could not remove it from there or throw it or break it. So what they did is that they hid the idol, and when the ASI had to raid that temple. In 1953 or 1955, the ASI had to raid that temple and recover that idol from inside the Garbhagriha of the Hindu temple. And after that, they kept it in the museum. The history of that raid and everything is given. So, there are several other temples near Kanchipuram, several temples in Kerala, many cities in Kerala, because I have visited at least 10, 12 temples in Kerala, where the idols were broken and hidden in the water tank, thrown in the water tank or buried inside the fields. And they are, gradually they are being taken out, dug out, and now they are being kept at the gate of that temple, Hindu temple, to prove that, see, this temple was built on the remains of this Buddhist temple. So this is an eyewitness account, and about this account I have given in my previous book with details and with photographs I have given. So this struggle still continues, and if we go to places like Jhalawad in Rajasthan and in so even there you will see that these caves. Okay. So now I think I have answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita ji. I think you must feel very happy because your book has generated interest, questions have been raised, and as an author, it is your opportunity to answer these questions in your next book. And definitely a book which generates interest, raised questions is considered a very good book. So you must feel very happy, and congratulations to you. And now we'll move ahead with our program, and I request our Member Secretary, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, to present his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Professor Gaur. His Excellency Mr. Dilshad Akhatov, Ambassador of Republic of Uzbekistan, former Ambassador His Excellency Shri Akhilesh Mishra ji, Additional Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, and a very close friend of mine. Another close friend of mine, Shri Pranav Khullar, who was the Joint Secretary of Ministry of Culture, and right now he is DDG Telecom. The author of the book, Ms. Sunita Dwivedi ji, about whose work we have discussed extensively. Professor Ramesh Chandra Gaur, the head of the department and dean of the IGNCA, distinguished audience, the publisher of the book, and Shri Kapish Mehra. I don't know whether he is there. Oh yes, he is there, but his place is there at the dais. First of all, I must congratulate Sunita ji for bringing out such a beautiful book, well researched, well thought of book, which gives a detailed account of her journey. It can be debated whether it can be called a travelogue or a research paper, but when you see the book, you would realize that in the footnotes, sufficient references have been given. So it's not only a travelogue, it's a very well researched book, and I must admit that it's a complete thesis, if one can say. It's a complete thesis of its sorts. I don't know how many PhDs can be awarded on such kind of a work. So when an author travels and thinks about various instances, various references, and when she brings it on record with proper citations, we must realize the kind of hard work she has done to bring out this book. So I must congratulate Sunita ji for great work. In fact, when she came to my office to present this book, I was very much impressed about the book. And her initial request was not to do the release function, but to organize an exhibition of the photographs which she has taken. I wish if it would have been coordinated along with the exhibition, it would have been a fantastic occasion. But unfortunately, IGNCA is in a transition phase. We are in process of shifting the campus. So I requested her not to do it right now. But whenever we shift to our new campus, I have given her the assurance, and I give the assurance on record that we would hold the exhibition wherever we are, in a very graceful manner, of course. I must also congratulate Shri Kapish Mehra ji, the Managing Director of Rupa Publication, not only for bringing this book, but also taking the initiative of keeping the publication industry alive. We must realize that during the pandemic especially, and in last 4 or 5 years, the publication industry is struggling to survive too hard. We know that because of the apps and gadgets like Kindle, the publication industry is facing a tough time. Recently, we had a webinar where we invited a couple of prominent publishers to discuss what can be done to revive the aura of the publication industry. I think publications like this would definitely help in bringing back the aura of the publication industry, because I always think and strongly believe that nothing can replace a beautifully printed book, because even if I read a book on Kindle, it does not give me any kind of a satisfaction to read a book, क्योंकि मैं बार बार कहता हूँ कि वो कागज़ों की खुशबू कहाँ से आएगी. अगर आपकी नाक में वो कागज़ की खुशबू नहीं आती और वो आपको नहीं मदमाती, तो किताब पढ़ने का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं. It is as bad as feeling a sari on a laptop. I don't know, even my wife is also deceased with the same disease of buying saris online. But I ask, how do you really feel the cloth? You cannot feel the cloth until you touch it. So even for the books also I say, and Akhilesh ji would also agree, हमारे ज़माने में शायरी थी कि अब कि हम बिछड़े तो शायद कभी ख्वाबों में मिले, जिस तरह सूखे हुए फूल किताबों में मिले. तो ये जो किताबों में सूखे हुए फूल है, उसकी जो रोमांटिसिज्म है, उसकी जो आशिकी है, वो कहीं और से शायद नहीं मिलती. So I must congratulate Rupa Publication for giving us this opportunity to really feel the book rather than just have a glance at the book online. I often say that geography divides and culture unites. This is the beauty of culture. And in the last map which she has given in her book, it is written that her map does not show the geographical boundaries. And that's very true, because culture does not have any geographical boundaries. His Excellency the Ambassador of Uzbekistan is sitting on the dais, and we know the cultural connect between India and Uzbekistan. We may be different countries by geographical borders, but we have so many things in common as far as culture is concerned. And that is amazing. And that is how an author, when she writes about the travel account, when she goes to different countries, it is really the culture and the ethos of culture which is giving her the impetus and the inspiration to write about this. Because if we think that this is not India, this is Pakistan, this is Afghanistan, this is Iran, this is Uzbekistan, then you will not have a unified way of looking at the things. Only when you think it culturally, emotionally, philosophically, then only you can write a book like this. So we must always remember that the culture has the power of binding and uniting the world. Even today, when we realize for last 8, 9, 10 months, just think, which was the thing which kept you alive? Which was the thing which gave you energy? Which was the thing which gave you strength to live and survive? It was only and only culture and nothing else. Culture has only given us the strength to survive, remain intact, remain motivated, and that is how we could overcome the kind of pandemic, the misery which the entire world has faced. And why India led it from the front? Because India had that kind of cultural strength which many countries lack in this world. They get inspiration from India, they get inspired from India, and that is the beauty of our land that is known as India, that is Bharat. I totally agree that history has different perspectives, and I would place it on record that for last 100 or 200 years, history about India has not been written in proper perspective, and that is why we get the kind of references we have in many books and publications. It is unfortunate, and that is why the kind of points which respected Akhilesh Mishra ji has raised need to be re-examined, because whatever has been written cannot be understood as full and final account and the realistic account of the thing. We need to re-examine the history. We need to reassess the history. We need to reassure the facts and figures which have been given as an account of history. Because in earlier days, history was written with a very different perspective. And that is why there was a definite motive behind writing a particular thing. And that motive has not only widened the gap between the two communities or the beliefs, but that has also widened the gap between two countries and two nations. So we have to come out of that colonial mindset of writing the history. And that is what, as a student of history, I strongly feel and believe. Recently, I came across a book known as A Different History of India, written by François Gauthier. You know, he's a French man, and why should a person from France write about history of India with a different perspective? But it compelled him to write about this because he also realized that history was not written in a proper perspective. Recently, I have written a foreword for a book, Will Durant's book, A Case for India, that has been translated by a lady in Hindi. And she has requested me to write a foreword for this book in Hindi. And to my surprise, this book was published in 1830. Until today, there was no Hindi translation of this book, which takes care of the British atrocities over the Indians, and why an American anthropologist should keep his work of writing the history of civilization aside and write the case for India only to bring these atrocities to the knowledge of the world. Unfortunately, this book was banned in the entire British regime. But even after independence, nobody took care to read that book. It is a pity. I know that British came here to rule India, and they have ruled, all right. But what has happened to the Indians who ruled for 70 years? And they did not feel it appropriate to bring this book to the knowledge of the entire world. Very few people know about this book. And it gives you a first-hand account of how the Britishers really devastated the entire Indian economy, ethos, philosophy, and social life. I have not come here to discuss that book, but I am only trying to suggest and submit that yes, there are different perspectives of writing history, and there are different perspectives of looking at the things. We as responsible citizen of this country, and now approaching towards 75 years of independence, we must realize that now the time has come when we think, when we see the things in right perspective. And for that, I think I must congratulate Sunita ji for bringing out all those striking points into the knowledge of the world. This would definitely help us in understanding the things in much better way and putting things in the right perspective. I also thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of Uzbekistan, for spending the time and being gracious for the entire this thing. Akhilesh ji has been a very close friend of not only me but the IGNCA, and we have seen him working as the dynamic Director General of the ICCR, and even today he's helping us out in more than one ways. Pranav Kullar ji has always been a great support to IGNCA. So what I'm trying to say is all these luminaries have assembled here to discuss this book. I'm happy that this discussion does not only resulted into a ritualistic praiseworthy thing, तारीफ के पुल सिर्फ नहीं बांधे, but we also had some kind of a thought-provoking discussions in this book release, which is definitely the real take-home of this entire event. And I must congratulate Professor Gaur for putting up this entire show. And this is a hybrid model which we have tried. Because of the pandemic, we are not allowed to have more audience in this auditorium. So this is simultaneously being telecast live. So I think there are many viewers who are joining this telecast. So I must also thank all those who are joining this telecast live. They must have enjoyed this discussion thoroughly, and hope that we all get over this pandemic very soon and we all get a chance to see the beautiful photographs which Sunita ji has taken during the course of our journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful concluding remarks, and always encouraging and supportive attitude, and providing all guidance in various agency programs. And you have very well presented all discussions and also given various inputs regarding such research publications. Now, in the end of the program, we have with us publisher of the book, because after author, the next most important public person in the bringing a publication is the publisher. So may I request invite Mr. Kapish Mehra, please come and say a few words. But before that, I may request my colleagues to bring out a small IGNCA memento to thanks and acknowledge our appreciation to Mr. Mehra by presenting a small IGNCA memento. Yeah. So, can you come? Yes. Yeah. So, thank you very much. And now I invite you to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Gaur, Dr. Gaur, honorable panelists. First of all, my apologies. I happened to join the program a few minutes once it started. While Gaur Sahab was very kind to request me to come on stage and take my seat, I felt a program that talks about the journey of Buddha should be about being in the back foot rather than being on the front foot and entering late on the stage. So I prefer to sort of sit in the audience. I hope you didn't mind that, sir, but this is my two-bit learning from what one has learnt. I am no scholar on Buddhism. That is not my place. But as a publisher, I can definitely talk to you a little bit about the author, because I don't want to talk to you about the subject. I think the experts here have spoken enough. But let me tell you a bit about the author, because she, I felt, is somebody who would tend to get overshadowed and would obviously be because of the subject she writes about, Buddha. So therefore, I just want to spend 30 seconds talking about Sunita ji. While at Rupa, we publish about 200 new books every year, and we have had the privilege of publishing various authors and about an active backlist of 4,000-5,000 titles. One very rarely comes across as persistent and as dedicated a person like Sunita Dwivedi. She has stuck to this mission of writing books in the space of Buddhism. And I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen, having interacted with her, it is not an easy space. So, really congratulations to the author for, doing this time and time again. And this is certainly a comma in a long sentence, and I'm sure there'll be many more commas in terms of books as we go along. And because we're trained 21st century and 2021 and etc., the old saying should be rephrased, and, behind Sunita ji, there is also a man. So that man has to be acknowledged in terms of Rakesh ji, because he's been the, if she is the one who's going forward, he's the fuel. So congratulations to Rakesh ji for being so supportive. Normally, a publisher is interacting with the author and handles the issues of a manuscript with the author. But in Sunita ji's case, one is slightly more concerned when it comes to Rakesh ji, because Rakesh ji's interventions are very surgical in nature and need to be addressed very thoroughly. So I must compliment this couple for not writing this book singularly. This should be Dwivedi and Dwivedi rather than only Sunita Dwivedi. So many congratulations to both of them. While the honorable speakers before me were talking about Buddhism and the various aspects related to the book and the journey and the beautiful debate that we had about various aspects, I think history lends itself to that. I very discreetly tried to see, what is it that I can talk about the book particularly rather than the subject, because, I'm no expert, as I said. So one number that I can put across on this table, on this discussion regarding this book is that with the blessings of Buddha and the best wishes of friends and family and readers of this space, I'm happy to report that this book is amongst the top 50 books in travel, top 50 in Buddhism, and is currently trending at number 46 in Buddhism on Amazon globally. Now that indicates the kind of reception around. So with these words, ladies and gentlemen, publisher's job is to do three things: talk very highly about the book, talk very highly about the author, in this case author and husband, and ask all of you to buy a copy of the book. So thank you for joining us, and over to the panel.
Thank you, Kapishji, for your very interesting but very true comments about Sunita ji, because I fully agree with you, because whatever interaction I have with her in last couple of weeks, she is so passionate about her work, and I think that resulted in this physical event. Otherwise, we are not organizing physical event at agency at all. We are in transition, we are having problem because of COVID protocols and other things. So that was her passion brings this event, and I'm so glad that we able to do it and be able to have such a wonderful discussion. With these words, I thank all the panelists, His Excellency, our member secretary has also already thanks. I just not want to repeat it. I thanks all of you, particularly with your holding hand. In this situation, you're able to make it, and we are really honored to have you in this program. And now we will close this program, and we have arranged some snacks and tea for all of you. So after this program, please go to this left side, and there is a room and where some tea and snacks have been arranged for all of you. And I thanks honorable complete team, technical staff, and all my colleague in agency for making all the arrangements for this successful launch of this particular publication. Once again, I thanks Sunita ji for choosing agency as a venue, and with these words, with permission of our chair, and I close this program and invite you for a cup of tea. Thank you very much. But I request Kapish ji, because without a publisher, the photograph of launch is incomplete. So if you can have one more photograph with all the dignitaries with you. Thank you. Please join us for tea.
बहुत अच्छा डिस्कशन रहा सर, बहुत आनंद आएगा।
इधर आ बेटा।